Hello again, crafters. Today we're going to go over how to make a stretchable bracelet. These are great for kids simply because for small children you're not going to want a big clunky buckle that they're going to have to deal with, and these will fit a variety of sizes. I do not suggest these for adults simply because, let's face it, they are kind of tiny. However, if an adult really wants one, they will fit. I myself have a 7.5-inch wrist, pretty bulky, so they will fit. You're just going to have to add some stitches at the end to make it close off. You might have to do that with your children too. So if you make these for shows, don't finish them off. Finish them at the shows. Just leave yourself some slack, let the child put it on, and then do a couple of weaves if you need to fill in a gap. Alright, so of course I put it on, so now it's not going to go back. Not a problem. Alright, so this is just one I threw together for a Boy Scout event. These are weaveless colors, actually. Let's get started here. I'm just going to go over the weave itself. I'm not going to do a whole heck of a lot with basics. If you need basics, please go back to some of my other videos. There's a couple of great ones for good cinching and good hiding of your ends and things like that. So really the only things that you need is a hair tie. A hair band, a ponytail holder, whatever terminology you like. I like the ouchless ones. The reason being is there's no metal piece to snag your paracord or somebody's wrist. These are the goodie ones. These are actually the cheapy ones. I've used these for years when I had hair. This is a 70 pack. I got it at Walmart for like $8. Now, most of us are used to having a double core, if not a quad core. So because of that, I actually use two. They've got some good stretch to them, as you can see. I do suggest that when you pull them out of the package, give them a little tug, kind of work on them a little bit. You want them to be stretchy, but you don't want them to be so shrunk up that your weave is tiny on these things. Alright, so we're just going to jump right into this. Find the singe points on these. They're usually shinier and they're kind of a hard plastic feel. Yeah, there's no metal, but they have to connect them some way. I know they do make them where they're a solid piece, but you're going to spend more on those, and for cost effectiveness, these work just fine because you're actually going to cover that point first. So here's my singe point on my paracord. I'm using black and blue today. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your singe point and put it underneath the singe point of the other ones. And that's just going to set you up. I'm going to do a Solomon bar. I find that the millipede doesn't work real well on this. I think it's an issue with the core not being thick enough. So if you wanted to quad this out, it'd probably work a little bit better. I just haven't done it yet. So standard Solomon bar, you make your little loop, right? Now this is hard to do this far from my body, so I'm sorry. I'm going to right-handed, obviously. I'm going to cross my blue one. Black one goes over through your hair ties and then through your little loop. A lot of people have different ways of doing this. Some people do it side to side, and that's fine. So the worst part about this is actually keeping your singe point where you want it on that very first stitch. You just work with it and tighten it down until you get it where you want it. The important thing is to kind of have your cross point be over the singe points for the elastic ties, because that's really just going to hide them. You're going to protect the child's wrist at that point, and that little attention to detail will go a long way with your younger customers. It'll also go a long way with your parents, that you actually put the extra thought into it to protect their child, even though you don't know them. Okay. Anyways, that's just customer relations. So again, I'm going to cross the blue, over, under, through. Now, if you notice, I'm not stretching my bands while I do this. So if you are the type of person who needs to tighten these down as you're going, be aware that if you tighten them down by grabbing your core and pulling this way, you're going to stretch your core out. And what's going to happen is you're going to end up with this big stretched out bracelet, because as you put your weave onto these elastic bands, it will actually hold them stretched out. Just try not to stretch them as much as possible. You just keep going, like all the way around, like you normally would. There's nothing special to this. The only difference is that you're not using these two cords here as your core. You're using a different thing as your core. And I've seen a lot of people who actually do that. They'll do their paracord core separate from what they're actually weaving with. And that's fine. I find that, you know, if you're using your cord for survival purposes, it might be nicer if you had a full 8 or 9 feet of cord as opposed to, well, per side, as opposed to, you know, a couple of dinky little pieces and then a couple of slightly longer pieces. So that's all personal preference and what market you're actually trying to get to. So you just follow this around. Once you get all the way to the other side, the one thing that I suggested was that you not finish these off, okay? And the reason being, I'm going to show you on the other one that I heard earlier, is when you put it on, okay, when you have a customer put this on, flip it inside out so that your singe point is on the outside. There's a reason for that, trust me, okay? So have them put it on, and I'm using my wrist here. This one was made for a child, but, okay. And what you're going to do is continue your weave. You want to fill this gap and you want to overlap over here because kids are funny. You know, they like the fact that it's reversible, so they're going to flip this around. So in an effort to, again, protect that tender little wrist, you want to cover your own singe point. So, you know, over, over, and through. Pull it nice and tight. Keep going. Where am I going here? There we go. Now if you do this right and you pull it nice and tight, you're not going to have a real bulky stitch at the end, even though you're doubling up on it. So you just kind of keep going. And now I've filled my gap. Okay, so you've actually gotten a little bit more cord in here. I find that on kids you're going to end up with roughly, and I mean roughly, about 8 feet total. So 4 feet per side. I cut mine at about 4.5 so that I've got a little bit to play with if I've got a bulkier child. So just kind of bear that in mind while you're doing this. Okay, so I'm going to put in probably, I'm guesstimating 2 more stitches here to cover my singe. Alright, so you just kind of keep going with this. Hello, come with me. What did I do? Oh, okay. So if you notice, like my blue slipped this way, it wants to go around that, and that's fine. So what I'm actually going to do is work back the other way, because now I've got a locking point. So you're going to come in and do it this way. I'm trying to keep this under the camera, but of course my arm is 2 feet out from my body. Alright, so with this one, work it a little bit, alright, and try and get it as close to that singe point as possible. Because even if you're not going to hide it completely, okay, it's just not going to happen. Your cords are not going to sit flat on top of that. If you get it to, awesome, but don't rely on it doing that. So what you're effectively really doing is trying to get a little bulk around it so that their skin is going to hit this as opposed to that. So that when you flip it over, you're done. Okay? You're going to finish this off the same way that well, you can finish it off anyway. If you want to clip here and singe the ends, then great. If you want to hide your ends, you can still do that the same way that my previous video showed. So this is it. That's an adjustable, elastic Solomon bar. Cobra stitch, however you know it. Nothing special about it, it's just a different thing. I hope this has helped, and if there's anything else you guys need, just let me know.